I know it's been rainy. I seen a couple of comments and statuses about people being like sick and tired of the rain. We're like in day 5 of the rain, right?
Is this a record? I feel like this is a record.
It may be a record, but I know it led us into the fall. I was talking that I was ready for fall stuff until fall came, and I ain't really ready for this. But
I'm ready.
Everybody's enjoying themselves. Yeah, I see you got the hoodie, you got the the ones. We got Jay back. Jay wasn't here this last week. Jay, what's up?
Chilling, man.
I real quick before we get started. I just want. Can you show them the shirt?
Yeah.
I saw the commercial. Did y'all see the commercial? Did y'all see Mess's commercial? He's running Chicago, right? And so he has these shirts that he's repping for Honor Humanity, which is his nonprofit. Tell him about it, Jim.
So you see the front, see the back.
You are 6 foot 20 inches tall.
What's up, Jay?
They can't see. Oh wait, he can see. He can see if you stand right there.
All right,
You see
so
the
tell
back,
him.
you see the front. So, Abbott 6 major world marathons, 6 of them. New York, London, Boston, Chicago, Tokyo, Berlin. I've already run New York. I'm running New York again. I'm doing Chicago next week. And so with each marathon, if you see the stars lit, every time I finish one, it's another star gets lit. And every time I finish one, the name gets crossed out in the back. Running for Honor Humanity, that's my nonprofit. We help underserved communities across the country. So Kai's selling the t-shirts and proceeds going right to Honor Humanity. So that's how we do.
It's a good cause. It's a good cause. Honor Humanity does a lot of good work out in Houston, but you know, they're nationwide. They do a lot of good all over. And you know, Jay's somebody he's family. He's been putting in the work, and he's about to run Chicago, and we're proud of him. And we want y'all to buy these shirts. I'm definitely gonna cop one of them. But he wasn't here last week, right? So we missed him. Kai, what's up with you? You good?
I'm good. I'm great.
You good? Okay. So look, this is where we're gonna get started. What I told Kai is that every week I'm gonna wear a hoodie that connects with the conversation, right? We've been doing good the first 3 weeks. Last week I had my culture hoodie on. We had a conversation with Andre Leroy Davis, which was amazing. And this week is no different. We're about to have an amazing conversation. So the reason why I got this HBCU shirt on, shout out to Morgan State, HBCU made, that's my school. The reason why I got it on is because when I was in college, and even now to this day, in HBCUs, obviously the D9 organizations are very important. And by the D9s, I mean the Divine Nine, the fraternities and sororities, the black fraternities and sororities. And so the culture of fraternities and sororities and HBCUs is prevalent. One of the things that's very prevalent is the art of the stroll. And so the stroll is when you see frats and sororities moving in syncopation to music. So anybody who knows Omega Psi Phi, who went to HBCUs with Omega Psi Phi, they know that Atomic Dog. When Atomic Dog comes on in the spot, the cues gather up and they do their thing, right? But for the sisters, it's the song Set It Off, right? And so Set It Off, when you hear that song, like even when I listen to it now, it just reminds me of the Deltas and the AKAs and our sorority sisters getting together and strolling. You just told me that Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, actually, you've licensed the song to them for it to be their national stroll song.
Well, they decided to make it the national stroll song, but I licensed it to Coffee Bluff Pictures, the writer-director, Deborah Riley Draper. She's the one that produced the 20 Pearls documentary, which is about the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So it's a documentary. She also did The Legacy of Black Wall Street and a few others. She got some awards for it, but you know, very powerful sister, very excellent work.
So this is a song that is kind of etched in the canon of the black experience. That's how important it is. And when the brother sat next to me, we had a conversation about having something, a definitive piece of work. What we're going to talk to a man who created a definitive piece of work. And we're going to have a great conversation. I can't wait to dig into it. I want to introduce to some and I want to present to others my brother Strafe. Strafe, what's going on, dog? You got the claps back. We ain't had the claps last week, Jay.
All right.
We had to do it ourselves. But Jay is back. That's why we need him. So look, Strafe, it's a pleasure meeting you. I want to jump right into it because there's not a lot. Honestly, there wasn't a lot that I knew about you before knowing you were going to come on the show. I did my research, obviously, but for the viewers, I want to kind of give them your entire history. So I want to bear with me because I want to really start at the beginning and get granular, but then, you know, we'll wind up landing in a safe space, right?
Sounds good.
Where were you born?
Brooklyn Hospital.
That's what
Farragut
I'm
houses,
talking
right
about.
down
That's
the
what I'm
block,
talking.
right down the way here,
That's
you
what I'm
know. So
talking.
yeah, that's where I started. And I was as a teen, I was in my pop's band, and I started doing my experiences as a musician. Started as a kid playing in the community centers and evolving from there.
What's the first instrument you learned to play?
First instrument was drum rudiments and notations, and it was trumpet. Then I ended up with guitar was my main instrument.
Tell me about your father. He sounds like a heavy gentleman. Just off the strength of you
yeah,
telling me about
yeah.
drum rudiments and notations.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had two pops. You know,
Uh-huh.
my mom separated, divorced when I was younger. My biological father. My stepfather is the musician, Mr. Steve Gordon, and the band was Mr. Steve and the Young Ones. Now he was a neighborhood cat. He taught in the community. He was an outgoing personality. He cut the kids' hair in the neighborhood. So he was like the Mr. Mom stay that took care of us at home. My mom, when she was out working during the day, he was gigging at night with different bands. And as a musician, he was a multi-instrumentalist. So he was an old schooler, you know. He could sing, he can act, he can soft shoe. Drums was his
He was a
main-
Renaissance man.
yeah, he was all of those things, but you know, he was the cat who taught me how to ride a bike and fly a kite, and you know, shoot a basketball, play baseball. But he was the father in my life, and all of those things, and the respect that he got from the folks in the community showed me that as an individual, how we have to be, how we are responsible for each other. You know, everything that he did, you know, I have to say, you know, he taught me, well, us as family. I'm the second oldest.
I was going to ask you, so you got a big family, brothers and
Yeah,
sisters?
I have an older sister. I call her Tina Teen. She's got me by 5 years. So, you know, when she was a teenager and she was collecting the music, you know, all of her, the ballads and all of that R&B, all the love stuff, you know, that was infused in me. My pops was into the jazz, moms was into the jazz, then the music. So it was a musical household that we lived in, and we had a bunch of instruments. He had jam sessions in the house, you know. So as a youngster and a kid, you know, we were sneaking up to the living room on the weekends while I had these big jam sessions. So it was always a musical thing, and the community thing too.
Right. I want to slow you down because you are giving us language and vernacular that I don't think a lot of people are familiar with. So you use the term music.
Yes.
And I know what music is, but tell the viewer what music is.
Music is the, well, you might call it elevator music. The soft, cinematic
Right. Score.
Yeah,
Right.
soundtracks for
Right.
films and otherwise. So yeah, that.
So your mother was into that?
Oh, on hey, look, on Saturdays I'm coming up for a tuna fish sandwich, and the music is playing, and I mean, you know, and it's like it was just relaxing. She's cleaning up the house or whatever she's doing on Saturdays afterwards.
Black people
you know?
always use music to clean up the house on Saturday morning. That is the black experience. That's what we do. We turn on some music and we clean up on Saturday morning.
Right. Yeah, there was, you know, there was the nighttime music, and then there was her, you know, the relaxing stuff, and so melodies and theater and jazz and the soul music, all of that is part of our household, and music as a communal thing is, and you know, the frequencies, the things we share, the messages we share is very important, and I think that you know, all of that evolves to where we are now, and I think that all of that science that we take for granted, you know, me as a songwriter, that wasn't the thing that our families really pushed in terms of being a musician. But my mother, I have to, you know, give her credit for allowing me to be me and to further explore that, because I was really, well, I guess I was the one that followed through on the lessons, because we were all taught as musicians, my sisters as well as I, to be musicians, but I'm the one that continued the experience.
So I remember hearing something about how John Coltrane used to keep a notebook of like the 12 chords, right? And he like kept this notebook with him, and like the study, the science of melody, the science of rhythm was very important to him, and it played out. Obviously, in fact, I was listening to Naima today when I was in the barbershop, and I'm always taken back by how beautiful Coltrane is. A lot of you spoke a lot about like growing up around music, and the fact of the matter is there is a bit of a detachment now. Like children, like I grew up, Gwen Guthrie, Patrice Rushen, Donna Summer. These were the Buddy
70s.
Miles, Down by the River.
Yeah.
Like this was the music, this was the soundtrack of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can understand when you're talking about kind of like this whole, you know, living in a house where music is the vibration. It's different now.
I mean, it was as corny as it sounds, you know, at our younger, in the younger days, he'd have the family gather around, we'd be singing My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, and we'd be doing rounds and some corny stuff like that.
What I'm saying. Hey.
And the first songs that I learned to play on my trumpet was like, Carry Me Back to Old Virginia, you know, things like that. I'm reading the charts.
And so you're sitting around as a family,
yeah,
and singing as a family.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so the
That's
music
right.
that was in the records, and look, we lived in the projects, so
Right.
You can hear what's going on in your neighbor's house if they're playing the music loud. So we used to have wars with our neighbors, you know. When we got a new record, you know, we play it 10 times or whatever until mom said, all right, enough, you know. But then the neighbor, she would play hers. That's my teenage sister,
Right.
you know. She was the one that was doing the battle.
You're going to blame it on her.
Oh, she was the one. She was the one that was old enough to get the records. And then my Uncle Harold, we were fortunate enough, he had a record shop in Queens, Jamaica, Queens. So, you know, forget it, man. So whenever he went to purchase his records for the shop,
Right.
he would take us with him to the one stop, and, you know, whatever we want, we could pick out. So we always had the top 16 soul from WWRL.
Right.
Yeah, we always had the top tune. So it was always about the music and, you know, how it moved us, but how it also kept us closer.
This is like, it reminds me of Malcolm Gladwell, the Outliers, when he discusses that 10,000 hour rule. Like as a kid, you were already advanced in terms of your hours studying the craft and practicing the craft. And
I was experiencing it, and I didn't know I was, well, to tell you the truth, I wasn't studying, and I was just living it. And because see, again, I think back to after I started studying it,
Right.
the art of the lyrics and how well the earlier songs were constructed. Like Motown was a big thing in our household, and, you know, it wasn't until later when I really decided I was going to make music my profession that I started to really review, you know, the pieces and how they affected me, but also the lyrical structures. Because as a fledgling songwriter, you know, I'm just putting down ideas, and I learned that, you know, you have to edit that, and that's how I help other artists in terms of finding their message and the core of the message and how do you write a popular song.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what I still consider myself mainly a songwriter. You know, and evolving in that art. And Set It Off was one of those songs that I had to shift to create. And that one was based on my experiences as a DJ also.
Oh, we're going to get to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get to all of that. So you went to high school, you told me you went to high school at Erasmus.
Erasmus Hall.
Shout out to E Hall. What did you want to be when you grew up? In high school?
Well, in high school, you know, my mom, you know, I knew what she wanted me to be. She wanted me to be a lawyer.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, I guess it always sounded good. Oh yeah, my son's gonna be a lawyer.
Right.
Yeah, right. But my biological father was a bookkeeper. He was an accountant too.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also a fledgling songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up owning Venture Graphics. He owned a club, Hobnob Room on Church Avenue. But what I wanted to be, and when I graduated from Erasmus, I was accepted into Baruch College, and I was going for accounting.
Okay. That's a boring job.
Oh, boring.
No
man.
disrespect to accountants.
No, really.
No disrespect.
I had to get a job.
Yeah.
But I also had to get my draft card, so it was either go to college or get drafted.
Right,
you know,
because you graduated in the 70s.
73.
This is Vietnam War.
Right, that's right. And they didn't end it until 75. So in 73,
So you got your draft card?
I got my draft card, you know, so that was, and the thing was that if you weren't in school and you weren't working, then Uncle Sam would just grab you, you know.
Right. So you had to get a job.
was trying to get a job. That summer, '73, I was an ice cream jockey at Baskin Robbins, but it was only part-time. What I made me $14 a week.
Where? Not
on
the one at
Fulton
Restoration.
Street. The one that opened up on Fulton Street.
At Restoration.
No, on Fulton, downtown Brooklyn.
Oh, downtown Brooklyn. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that one was infamous in that during the '77 blackout, you know, they ransacked that shop, and he was on the news. Animals, but he deserved it because he deserved it, man. He was my boss, and he deserved it. He didn't want to give us enough hours to make enough money to do anything, you know.
Just sound like your boys may have been the ones ransacking.
Harrogate, Fort Greene, come on now. Yeah, blue jeans,
You already know who it was.
Right, you know, Jay put the applause up, right. That's right.
Forget it, you know.
That's right.
It's like, no.
No justice, no peace.
Man, it was a whole nother time.
Man, I was 2 years old when that happened.
Oh, really? Oh, you missed it, man. That was a good summer, because hot.
That's the summer of sand.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, that's right.
Summer of hip-hop.
sand.
Oh, right. Yes.
It sounds like summer 23.
Right, low key, right? So ice cream jockey.
And I had joined a band, Caribbean funk band, Funk Caribbean, Odyssey, and prior to that, I had been in my pop's band,
Right.
and I had a teen band doing the talent shows, and now out of high school, this is a dance band. So this is a professional. Well, they were all professional in their ways, but this one was on the next level. We had horns and. It was a big band, so it's about
How many
seven to 9 pieces, something like that. 2 guitars. I was one of the guitar players, keyboardist, 3 horns, drummer, bass. Whatever.
And what type of gigs did you see?
All that summer we were learning the top 40 with the funk. We were doing funk, Ohio Players, Cool and Gang, and all of that, and then
like a cover band almost.
We were, but
Right.
we had 2 original tunes which me and the bass player wrote. So I was still, fledgling songwriter, was able to, as one of the young cats in the band, because all these cats were in college. They were a bit older than me and my brother-in-law Russell Taylor on bass. So we were the youngins in the band, and we were learning from these cats. And but they were so we were doing like mandrill, because there was mainly a brass section, and at that time the brass bands and the dance
Was
bands
heavy. Yeah.
it was rhythm sections and brass.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. Love's a Message came out that year. That was one of the tunes in our repertoire. But
instrumentation was everything at this time. You're talking that Gamble and Huff
DJs,
era.
the whole mode. Even though they say hip hop started in '73, I will have to say hip hop was defined later. But the culture of hip hop started with the bands and what was happening in the community.
Absolutely.
And also, we've got to recognize the musicians and the funk that was the foundation of the message that was being shared in the community. Like the early rap tunes, you'd probably say James Brown.
Right.
I'm Black and I'm Proud, and
Right.
the Don't Want to Be a Dropout. And then you have, I think about the Temptations, Masterpiece, Norman Whitfield, what he was doing. That came out in '73, but it was the dialogue, Isaac Hayes, Ike's rap,
Oscar Brown Jr.
Right. So
Can I Get It Down? I
Gil
remember
Scott
that
Heron,
growing up,
yeah. Those are that's the core.
So hip hop, the music, really was born and fomented out of the breaks from these instrumentations.
Definitely.
Right.
But why did they start using the breaks? That's the whole thing.
Because it was extended dance. It was extended dance.
Of course,
Right.
but see, that's what the DJs and the mobile DJs were starting to do now. See, in '73, it was still popular in the dance, in the promoters and the organizations giving events and dances to hire bands. So the bands were still the primary entertainers at these dance
At these
halls,
parties,
these events,
these spots, right?
Right. So my band, we were doing all the tops, dance stuff, but we also were doing calypso at the time. It wasn't called soca yet, so it was calypso, and then I was introduced to reggae. and this is pre Bob Marley roots reggae really taking hold. So it was two reggae tunes, Johnny Too Bad and
Johnny Too Bad.
and This Is Reggae Music were the two songs we did. But we had this.
Those are both Marley tunes.
No, they're not Marley tunes.
This Is Reggae Music.
Like This Is Reggae Music is Zap Pow, and I don't remember the name. I keep forgetting the name of the group that did Johnny Too Bad. But yeah, those were popular reggae songs at the time that we covered, and then we had a beautiful female vocalist. I mean, her voice was just magic, and she was like the icing on the cake. And the fact that I was able to write a tune, me and the bass player wrote a tune for her called "Living a Life of Shame," and that would tear the house down. You know. Anyway, that summer, 73 was spent rehearsing and me trying to get a job.
18 years old.
Yeah, I turned 18 that year. That's right.
Living a life.
Don't tell anybody.
It's between you and me. They don't. They,
you know, once I got a real job working at an inventory firm during that fall, at Accurate Inventory, I had a little extra $5, $10 on the weekend to start going to these parties and checking out these clubs. So that's when I started chasing the scene and the dance culture and the club scene.
What did you find when you 73, summer of 73, fall of 73? You in the spots. What do you find there?
What I'm finding is that, and what got me hooked was the other music that the brothers were playing in these clubs besides the singles that I heard on the radio.
Gotcha.
They were playing the other tunes on the albums. And you got to realize at that time, technology, everything was new. We had just gone from mono to stereo.
Stereo, right.
WBLS was really just launching. And
Do y'all remember that? When stereo used to be the thing? I remember being young and it'd be like, yo, this is in stereo.
Oh yes, yeah.
Right,
that was a new
that
thing.
was before Dolby.
Right.
Dolby.
Dolby. If you had Dolby, you was fly. You had a Dolby system.
Right. So everything was new during that time. Even the evolution of the music, or also the progression of the politics in the music. When you think about the bands and what they were speaking in the music and how it was relating to our condition and our coming out of the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, but how the music spoke to the moment and how artists across the board were actually covering each other's songs, black, white. We were getting to that point where it was like the peace and love movement. All of that movement that was happening was in the music, and it was like a national community thing that was evolving, where you had the rock, the fusion, you had jazz fusion now growing. Now you had musicians, what Miles Davis was doing with Live Evil and Bitches Brew, branching out into, transitioning from the bebop and the traditional jazz covers into a fusion of liberation and creative expansion. And so as a musician, we wanted to be, as a youngster, we wanted to be better musicians. So it was fusing classical and all of these other disciplines into the study and into the work to just grow as a musician.
It's a very intellectual time.
And I think that it's very important that our jazz is an intellectual music, but it's not a snobby music. It is like math. It is a cerebral, thinking, inspiring art form that I think has been intentionally deprived from our schools and our communities because
it creates intelligent, empathetic, considerate humans.
Yes.
Loving,
it's all of those things, and
absolutely.
Yes, it's deeper. It allows you to be deeper, but it also allows you to understand the frequencies that you're playing with, and then to use those frequencies to find your freedom in an unfree world, because that's where bebop and why the jazz musicians started to have those after hours joints where they can just take off their ties and their tuxedos and just blow to escape, the oppression that was the insanity that we're living. You're entertaining folks in these high society rooms and performance rooms, and as a musician, that's what your job is. You want to get paid, and those are the better paying jobs. When you think about the jazz, how jazz was danced. When you think about Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Glenn Miller, all of those, across the board, the big bands were the dance purveyors. You know, they
Reminds me of Lawrence Welk. That's another television piece. Lawrence Welk used to have his
Right.
band, a big band type of dance type of thing. Right.
right now the early DJs, since we're in the hip hop closet here, the early DJs usually came out of the bands who had PA systems and usually when we were doing shows back then, we were the main entertainment for the dance hall, and then the DJs played between our sets. So, so we did our sets, and he might have done a 20-minute set in between. Once the sound systems became became an attraction, that's when cats like Grandmaster Flowers, prior to Flash, the original Grandmaster Flowers, when the sound systems can compete with the decibels that a band can put out. Now the sound systems became a thing, and the mobile DJs, as they started to hit the streets and hit the clubs, they started to command the gigs because the promoters can pay them half of what they're paying the bands.
Paying you, right?
Right, and the
Hold on,
DJs
'cause you
don't
keep
take
calling
breaks.
them. You keep calling them mobile DJs.
Yes.
Explain that term.
Mobile DJs were DJs that took their sound systems out into the street. Now I became a mobile DJ during the '70s because the mobile DJs started to getting all the gigs.
Right.
So
every DJ now is a mobile DJ. Like all these DJs.
Some of these cats, you got to have the love for bringing music to the community and playing the music for people to be a mobile DJ because your work starts before you get to the venue. You got to pack the stuff up. You got to get there and set it up.
I done did that.
You got to come with the crates of records, the speakers, the amps, and everything. You got to set up the sound system. You got to be there so you can start on time. And then at the end of the night, you got to break it down, get it out of there, and get it back home. Get it out of there safely. Make sure you do the job so you can get paid. Because you know the game with promoters. Yeah. It's always a game.
I've been on both sides.
Okay. So yeah.
So this is what's going on. You're in the midst of the transition from big band,
dance band
into mobile DJs.
Because prior to that, when I started thinking about being a DJ, it was to be a radio DJ. I wanted a job, any job in the music industry that could get me paid. I was thinking about in the Brill Building, if I could be a songwriter and get, a check as a songwriter. That's how I wanted to make my living. I took courses as a recording engineer, went to Institute of Audio Research to learn some of that technology until I got laid off from my job and I couldn't afford it anymore. So that forced me to become more of to go all in as a mobile DJ and again I was still a musician, so playing with different bands, whatever I can do to keep hustling. I mean, when I was laid off from that job and I decided I wasn't going back, my mom said, as long as you don't be a bum and as long as you don't be asking me for any money, you do what you gotta do. But you're not gonna be a bum.
Right, don't be a bum and don't ask me for no money.
That's right, so do what you gotta do.
It's so much, and I swear we could stay for an hour or so here, but I do want to move on. But I just want to ask you this, so I talk a lot about this summer. This summer has been one of the most dynamic summers that we've had in a long time because culture curators, people that curate culture, promoters, artists, poets, musicians, there's been like this surge in that creativity particularly in Brooklyn, right? So we're living in an era right now where the culture of curation is really ascending. But it doesn't seem like it holds a candle to what you guys were living in terms of culture curation in the mid-'70s. I want to get a sense of that, because we're in it, right? So we do it. Everybody here does culture curation in their own way. I just want to get a sense of that. What was it like to be curating culture in this moment?
Well, it was co-opted and it is controlled. Hip hop actually is a result of It's a result of the disco bludgeoning that 1976 put upon us. 1976 was America's 200-year, bicentennial birthday party.
Bicentennial, right.
And during that year was the most intense rollout of disco music you could imagine.
Really?
It was some of the best dance music that was transitioning from the funk into this whole 1976 in the hood, folks are partying to I Love America, doing the hustle. Well, I love, come on, and Happy Days are here again. Oh, it was a rollout. It was like a renationalization of American. You are going to be American whether you want to or not. The big party, they spent all of this money. Oh yeah, I mean, see, and up to that point, the activism that was going on in the community, especially Brooklyn model cities, what they were campaigning for was programs to work programs, trade programs, there was money being funneled into the community to placate the community for all of the protesting and all of the activism that was taking place. So it was like, okay, we're gonna give you all of this. So we had all these programs and everything that was happening, and right through '76 we had the Job Corps and all of this this funding that fed the communities. And after a while, you're fighting, you're struggling. And there's a point where you want to release. 1976 was the year they allowed us to release. You got the pretty little baby face. All this new technology and this stuff that was hitting us. It was like, yeah, let's let go. Let's enjoy. And then you had the Stonewall, the gay liberation, all of that coming out. So all of this show liberation party. Let's, it's party time, and we were hypnotized into it. We jumped into it. We let go in it, and in 1977 they pulled the rug out, and that's when they cut everything. New York City was bankrupt after that. After all the big parades and the jets and
we ain't got no money.
We ain't got no money. It was like New York City was bankrupt, and President Ford was saying drop dead as Lindsay was asking for money. But in any case, the neighborhoods were suffering now. South Bronx and everything that was going on. So it was, and they cut the music programs, the money into the music programs, and so and the arts programs. So now it was like they just snatched the rug from under.
So what was left was the DJ.
Well, what was left was this music that was made by some of the best musicians. They would use, there was studio musicians creating this stuff. It was high quality stuff. And we were, again, now you have quad and audio files were really, so the hypnotics or the experience of a sound system and hearing these sound systems, these big sound systems in these clubs. Disco wasn't a thing. Discotheques were a European thing, but now discotheques became a thing here. You had sense around sound now in the theaters with Jaws and the subwoofers, and there's a science to the frequencies that that these audio companies were actually employing in the art of building these clubs, to make women respond and men respond in particular ways in these environments.
The low chakra. Kanye talked about that. The 808, the subwoofer, the low,
the sub-frequencies.
The sub-frequencies.
Yes. So how to use that as well as the high frequencies. All of that became an art that was perpetuated in the sound systems and the new sound systems that were being created. Now, a lot of these designs, when you think about Sherwood Vega and these major companies, how they evolved their designs. A lot of their stuff they got from the brothers that were the Yachty boys that were doing it in Jamaica.
Big facts.
And these cats were building these and designing these systems that these other companies started to adopt and adapt, for long throw or short throw environments, depending on how the room was designed. But when I think about clubs like the Garage, why the Garage became, the Paradise Garage became a thing, mainly because of the sound system, a rich and long sound system, as well as the loft, the sound system. So people were being drawn to hear these sound systems and that they didn't have in their homes. And now you have the new technology of the 12-inch record that actually amplified and increased the fidelity of the sound system. So again, it was they were appealing to the appetites, and we were seduced. And the music was great music, but what happened was it was getting too sweet, and it was getting too quelling. It was almost like we want to quell the beast, savage beast, so we're going to put more strings, we're going to make it more lush, And that's where hip hop became the anti-disco, because hip hop went lo-fi, and hip hop went back to the funk. And you know, once that's where the break beats and the repetitions came in. You know, we don't need all that sweet stuff. We just gonna keep the beats and the b-boys here. Now the thing was, the b-boys were the youngsters that couldn't get into the clubs, you know, but you needed disco. The adults were doing the disco thing and getting caught up in whatever, you know, the on high was the chemical and the chemistries that the chemicals.
We can talk about it. We can say it. We hip hop closet.
The medicinals,
cocaine,
medicinals, the poppers, all the pleasure items,
the quaaludes, the barbiturates,
yes, all of those things that were introduced into the environment, because it was about breaking down all of that collective activism that the music had been about prior to that. You know, the music.
It was about the quelling.
It was about the quelling, because prior to that you had, you know, artists from Curtis Mayfield, Sly and the Family Stone,
Black and I'm Proud.
Again, all of that, Marvin Gaye. I mean, but when you listen to the songs, Mandrill, what they were speaking to, they were speaking to the community. And the music and the message in the music galvanized the community. And across the board, rock and otherwise, it was starting to speak to the sentiment of fairness. You know, how can we change, you know, all of this truth that we're being exposed to.
But this is what I'm going to ask you. Is what you're saying now, and Kai, I just want to say, he's cooking.
Yo,
he's like cooking. He's cooking right now. I don't want to stop him, but what I'm gonna ask you is this retrospect, or did you know this then?
Oh, I knew it then. And that's why you haven't heard me put out a whole lot of songs. I've been writing nonstop. I write music to galvanize the family, but the industry has been co-opted by hip hop. Hip hop has actually compromised and been used to compromise our community.
Facts.
Because they're youngsters, and you see, there's a reason why black rock is not, you know, a mainstream, or hasn't gone the way of hip hop, because they're intellectuals. You know, the brothers that are doing it are warriors and they're musicians, and
but what you saying
attacking the status quo.
But what you're saying, look, that young community, that 18 to 24, these are the people that create the change for the next generation.
Yes.
So when you grew up, you were in a post-civil rights, black nationalist oriented. You had the East, 1969 East, right? So you're talking about a post-civil rights, black nationalist oriented environment for, you were 18 in 73.
Yes.
So you came into a space of, I'm trying
to stay as young for as long.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should say your surname.
No, that's good.
But what I'm saying is, it's important because you, the coming of age years are very important from a generational standpoint.
Finding myself.
Right, because where you find yourself is where you direct your future. And so in the early 70s, you guys were dealing with the amalgamation of the science of vibration. You guys were way intelligent, looking at music as something way different than we look at music now.
Right.
And as such, you were able to move your generation in that way. The reason why hip-hop is co-opted is because they don't want coming-of-age kids to be movers of culture. They don't want us to move it the way y'all were moving it.
Well, again, we and our families, we're far removed from our roots of how we treated each other as a village, and how we used music as a village for special events. Yeah, it was used to bring us together, to encourage us to move as a unit.
Right.
And that's the science of the roots of what music has served in communities, regardless of your culture. Traditionally, that's what it was.
Right.
And that's what it was it was coalescing to be at that point in the early 70s, and then disco took us off track. Disco brought us to materialism and hedonism. That was what disco was about.
That's the same thing that they do now.
So when, again, and what I realized also with reggae and roots reggae, and what Bob Marley was doing and Peter Tosh was doing in terms of the music, roots music of the people, speaking to the politics of the island and addressing the oppression.
Right.
That reggae didn't become popular here. I mean, I was one of the cats spinning it, roots reggae, but it wasn't popular on the radio here because it was about a revolution. It wasn't until dancehall started breaking, then it was all party that became more.
It wasn't until it
ubiquitous.
hit that lower chakra.
Right.
It wasn't until it was about the carnal
Right.
aspects and away from revolution that it really took hold. But Marley took hold globally.
Yes.
From a global standpoint,
Right.
revolution was the thing. But here in America, they didn't really push it until he was a martyr, until he was gone.
Well, Frankie Crocker,
Shout to Frankie Crocker,
he did
good
bring him and introduce the Uprising album and him. Could You Be Loved and coming in from the cold, that album. He did break it on urban radio. But what's the point I'm trying to make? At that time, and where we are now, like in hip hop, what was happening underground with hip hop, and then when Rapper's Delight '79, radio wasn't embracing hip hop until that point, '79, 1980. So it wasn't even called hip hop, at that point. But hip hop had its renaissance with, I guess that was around '87. With the
86 to 88.
Well,
Yeah,
when Queen Latifah came on the scene,
LL.
I'm saying the Renaissance I'm talking about is when Chuck D, Public Enemy, KRS-One, when the hip hop movement went pan African.
That's 88.
When
Yusef Hawkins died in 88. Fight the Power came out.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, so that's when the youngsters started to compete semantically as rappers. They were going into their history books to compete, with history, and so they were pushing intellect. And you had the black filmmakers, Spike Lee, Hudlin Brothers, all of this. The Black to the Future moment was happening then, and that was a renaissance when like Diggable Planets and the other artists started to fuse jazz into their sampling. Now you had the collaborations of the elders. Now the elders were starting to make royalties off of their music that they had never made. So it was an economic renaissance that was bringing the black family together. Now you have the elders who can mentor the youngsters, and then now they were speaking truth to power and the rhythm, and so it was the community music was becoming stronger
again.
Yeah, because that's when you had the generations being bridged.
1988.
Yeah, and into 1990, I would say. But materialism and gangster rap changed the landscape, and that was intentional because it tied into the Contras and the cocaine and the crack epidemic that undermined our communities. So it was a diversion once again, of how our music was empowering the community and how we were empowering and embracing each other. And with those tunes, now you had materialism and gangster rap. So now everybody's back to being selfish again and having the bling. And of course, video was a whole new medium. So the fact that youngsters was the target. I mean, they want to break from the family, they want to make some dough. Now, I had a rehearsal studio, so I was dealing with young artists coming to me and wanting to, recording them in 4-track setting. But they would come to me with their art, and I had been working the cultural arts circuit in my band, backing up like Yusufu, Waliyaya, his medicine band. I had my band of musicians. We were doing the African Arts Festival, those and cultural events. So we were able to do our original material for the community, and
Baba Segun.
Right. That whole family there. So it was, and back then, really the community was about, look, we're going to open up we're going to go into manufacturing. It was really a progressive meditation that was happening, that was trying to be launched at that point. Again, and the kids were associated with it, but when they came to me, they would come with these, they would present their progressive lyrics, but they said, look, we got to do this other stuff. We got to do this other stuff to get put on, So they were steered by what the industry was prioritized.
Right.
And
what they were cutting checks for.
Right. Well, see, as we realize now, it was all tied into the prison industrial complex, and so these youngsters wanting to make some dough, you know, they compromised their integrity and figured, I'm going to go where the flow is and where the cash is because I got to do that first. If I make some money, then no, you don't. And
but again, it was about halting the progress of culture. Because like you talk about 88, you're talking about Guru, you're talking about Public Enemy.
Right.
And there were social things that were taking place, like Yusef Hawkins, like Eleanor Brothers, like Michael Griffith, that it was reflected in the music.
That's right.
Particularly with hip-hop artists from New York City.
And it was also a promotion and making the folks and the youngsters aware of the HBCUs. And wanting to go to
see the shirt,
and wanting to go to college, all of that was like a new thing. Hey, you know, so it was opening them up to thinking of the possibilities and wanting to be about the possibilities and serving, you know, as a community. But that was shut down with, I'd say it, NWA, you know. Well, you know, I understand what was going on, but see, divide and conquer is always the strategy. You see, the East Coast was going through its anti-gang movement. Graffiti was now becoming art. Your Zulu Nation was about quelling the whole gang violence. Now we're going to be about collaborations, breakdancing, and the whole culture was now being recognized as a culture and as an artistic movement. And even the messages, that was an East Coast thing. Out of the West Coast, you know, Bloods and the Crips, you know, where did they get the guns from? Where did they get the cocaine from? All of that stuff was introduced and encouraged, and that's where you had the division. You had the East Coast against the West Coast thing. Now the East Coast, you know, we're all family. I mean, you think about East Coast and Oakland, you know, that's where the Black Panthers were rooted, and you know, it was very progressive and very community and very family, you know, fight the power. Now I understand, you know, that the NWA, you know, but for me, the N-word, once the N-word became ubiquitous in our music, that was the compromise.
Yeah, and it was this fine line, right? Because really, at its root, what NWA was spitting was also revolutionary. Fuck the Police is a very revolutionary track. Straight Outta Compton's a very revolutionary track. The issue wasn't necessarily the lyrics, it was the aesthetics. It was the idea of we are now going to contain this in a gang mentality. So now it's the gangs. It's the Raiders starter jackets. It's the aesthetic. It's the Raiders caps, right? It's the, oh, he's Crip, he's Blood, because then DJ Quick came out as well, and DJ Quick was a Blood, and it became about the gang culture. It really wasn't about the lyrics, because if you listen to, so I was 13, 14, NWA dropped Gangsta Gangsta. I used to have to leave, so I lived in a tenement apartment building. I used to have to leave my apartment building, and me and my friends would listen to NWA in the hallway so that our mothers wouldn't hear us. But I'm gonna tell you, Gangsta Gangsta, Straight Outta Compton, Fuck the Police, these were very revolutionary joints.
No doubt.
On the, like, it just, if you look at the lyrics, but the aesthetics were teaching us about gang culture.
Well, the thing is that division was exploited in between them, and the communities were compromised because of the financial gains of selling crack. Destroying, you know, your community.
And that
you're
was
speaking
the
revolution, but
and then you selling crack. You can't do both.
Right. And so for me, I was actually horrified. Let me tell you why. My younger brother one day, you know, came up to me and said, "Yo, man, you gotta check this out." He put the headphones on me, and I heard it because it was so nasty, and it was funk. And I'm like, I know these people gonna eat this up, and I know my folks, they just gonna eat this up. I was like, oh, we're going for a ride now, because I can tell it was so powerful.
But I'm gonna tell you,
but it was dangerous.
But I'm gonna tell you,
it was dangerous because of that.
And I was 13 at the time, and I'm gonna tell you, NWA at the time was really no different than Richard Pryor to me.
Right, but this is what folks don't recognize. When Richard Pryor, let me see, I was on the road with a band, and it was in '82. And Richard Pryor, the movie came out. I think it was on Sunset Boulevard. He was telling
with the red suit.
I don't remember what
Black,
he was wearing.
on Sunset Boulevard. That's it.
But see, here's the thing about the music. certain music is contraband. And we couldn't get that stuff when we were kids, you know, we couldn't get it. But when Richard Pryor in the film said he went to Africa, and he said, I didn't see no niggas. And he said, I wasn't going to use the word anymore. See, powers that be, you know, they take these things and they say, okay, well, we're going to flip it. And y'all, you know, when he said he wasn't, because he was definitely using it.
Right.
You know, and in his
Right.
comedy and everything,
Right.
you know, nigga.
Right.
You know. Come on. You know. And you had the blaxploitation movies.
Yes,
and all that.
I'm about to touch on that as well. Right.
Yeah,
It wasn't anything different to me than Dolomite.
Right. But see,
At
that
the
was
time,
but that was contraband.
Signifying monkey was it's the same thing to me.
But you had to listen to it somewhere else. You
I had to leave out the house.
It
I
wasn't
couldn't
family
listen to it.
music.
Right,
The whole family couldn't gather and
Nobody
sit
was
around.
cleaning up to that.
Right. Nobody was cleaning up to that.
No,
I had to go in the hallway.
Right. So,
But I had the freedom because I was able to purchase it. I was able to get it.
right.
And getting it was a coveting thing at 13 years old. It was like, oh, we got the NWA album. We gotta hear this.
Right. See, as youngsters, I recognized how it was intriguing, and I'm saying,
Right.
oh no, because again, my brother was laughing at me. It's because you know I was into the community, progressive, positive music.
Right.
That was my mantra in terms of with my band. We were going to do positive, suggestive music. That was our thing.
Right.
But to hear that, and it was beautiful though. It was so well done, and I had been a DJ too, so I knew, you know, again, our folks are gonna eat.
Right,
They're gonna eat
this.
this up,
Right,
man.
this is it.
They're gonna eat it up. But
Right.
oh man, I was like, you can't play this in a block party for the family. I didn't expect to be hearing it in family settings. And then once it became ubiquitous in the culture, you know, that was very, very disappointing to me. Riding by neighborhoods, hearing, you know, the N-word while the
Hearing
whole
it in the
family's
car,
out there.
right.
That's separate. You know, of course the adults are not going to be feeling that. So now you're breaking down the family relationship again. So again, it was a separation of our ability to
That's
really
what the
engage
issue is.
as a complete family.
Yeah.
There is a question, I feel like it's in line with what you just said, but Nalo, Lisa, what do you miss most from the prime era of house music compared to house music today?
Well, the newness of the compositions, what's happened now in house music is that the DJs, you know, giving away tracks for practically nothing to these companies that put out these compilations. You know, I've been licensing, I started licensing Set It Off in '97, and to major labels for compilation deals. And as the DJ culture has evolved and the technology has evolved to allow everybody pretty much to become a DJ these days, the DJs have, and sad part about it is the DJs, when I create a song, the first thing they want to do is remix it. They don't even want to play the song. So again, that's a problem that we have with a lot of the artists that are creating, well-known artists from D-Train and all of us. We create new music, but you're not hearing it because radio's not playing the newer creations. But house music has been evolved or devolved to a techno fusion of sounds and beats as opposed to songs. You know, songs give you a message, a melody, and you know, the transitions in the song, you know, captivate. You can sing to them, but it's become more instrumental, and it's become
Just about the
it's become more about the rhythm, and that's boring to me. You know, I like a lot of music. You know, everything. You know, so a good party to me is a variety of music. But if it's just one thing and the beat and the DJ's just keeping it, you know, trying to keep the beat consistent, keeping people on the beat instead of changing it up, the ebb and flow of the room.
Taking them on a ride.
Yeah, take them on a ride. You know, you can stop, you can break it up.
No substance,
you know,
just again hitting
I wanna
that
keep the
lower
beat.
chakra.
Yeah, you know.
I want to talk to you about Set It Off because, I mean, that really, you know, I want to know all about it. I'll be honest with you. Like, where were you at in terms of your journey when you made that track?
what happened when I created Set It Off. Set It Off was a reaction to me taking shopping deals for my band, second edition of my musicians band, taking it up to Vanguard Records, meeting with A&R man Pinky Velasquez, Ray Pinky Velasquez. I have to acknowledge him because there aren't too many A&R people that allow you to sit down with him. Prior to that, I was sending out tapes to companies, trying to, get a deal for my band. Lister Hewan Lowe up at Island Records was another brother I was able to sit down with. He had heard the band. He wanted to hook us up with a producer. He said we needed a producer. He liked the tunes and the direction of the band. But when I took it up to Ray Pinky Velasquez, he said, look, because I had evolved the compositions and the arrangements at that time, and he said, he sounds like you're trying to hit radio. Well, I figure you want, if my
That's
song,
the goal,
right. Doesn't it sound like it? My music is radio accessible? It was sing along, it was grooving. But he said, look, as an independent label, we can't guarantee any of our artists get played at radio because you had the payola thing. The major labels had radio locked up, urban
No
radio.
one wants to talk about it.
And I knew they was telling the truth because as a DJ, I was getting records from him and great music, and I was playing it in my sets, but it never made it to radio.
Right.
And I was wondering, how come these other nasty tunes, I'm playing it in the hood, folks are throwing down, but they're never making it to radio. So what he told me was, look, if you write something for the streets, and if the streets play it, like the street DJs, the mobile DJs, and it takes off in the street, radio will have to play it. So that's when I went back to the drawing board and I wrote 2 songs. I wrote one called Raps and Lines, wrote that for a female vocalist, and I wrote Set It Off for me. Raps and Lines was the tune that got the interest at the independent label and the other labels that I was, that song. So the label that I ended up doing Set It Off for, they wanted Raps and Lines. I was also submitting songs for, female vocalists. So they needed a song for a female vocalist. I hit them with that. They didn't like the way the female vocalist sang on it. Whatever she was doing with it, they didn't feel it. But they felt I sang the demo. So my thing was, well, now y'all are interested in this song and you're interested in me. Prior to that, I was pitching songs for me and my band. They didn't want to hear it. But they loved this song that I wrote for this female vocalist. And they said, well, since we like the song and he sang it, why don't you be the artist? I said, okay, well. Now I had interest at another label for that song too. And I was like, well, since y'all hear me on this song, why not check out this song I wrote for myself? This other song I wrote for the clubs too. Right. Played Set It Off for them. They hated it.
They hated it?
Because they fell in love with this other song.
Wait a minute.
Because that's what happens when folks get locked on
Is the other song somewhere where I can hear it?
I never released that
Because
song.
how could they hate Set It Off?
Because it was not what they were feeling. And see, as a DJ, and what I learned as a DJ, you can get people to like music they don't know. You just have to mix it into the right records. You have to set them up.
You got to set them up, right? DJs do that all the time.
Right, exactly. That's how you break new music.
Right.
So they fell in love with this other tune, and whatever it was stuck in, it was a good tune. It was to be sung, and then a male vocalist could complement with rap, in between it. So it's called Raps and Lines. You think that love is breaking my heart? It was hip hop. It was funk. It was definitely, but it was a long form song.
I mean,
It was a clip.
I need that.
Right,
We need to release this
It was a great melody. I mean, but I had a long guitar intro, and it was dramatic. That was dramatic. Oh man! Then it broke into Raps and Lines. You think that love is breaking my heart? They fell in love with that. I'm like, oh man. So I'm saying, no, I'm not. Well,
Give it to me and Jason. Me and Jason can
oh man. So then I hit him with Set It Off. It's like, we ain't feeling that.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's what. And my thing was, well, I wrote this for the clubs. I wrote this for the streets. And if the streets play it,
Then the DJs on
radio will play it. Now see, with this one label, I had already done a production with them I put together a rhythm section. They put out a record called Searching by one of the executive producers on Set It Off, Willie Daniels. He's a vocalist.
Right.
He used to be with, I think it's either the Ebonies or the Esquires, an older group. He was a doo-wop vocalist. But we had done a production. They had done a production on him. They used MFSB strings and horns. We did the rhythm section for that. And so they already had the experience of doing this dance record and not getting any radio play. So when I told them that Set It Off was written for the streets, if the streets play it, it takes off, then radio will play it. And street DJs buy 2 records, and I think that's what convinced them. They buy 2 copies of the
Right,
record.
because they want to go back and forth.
Right, so the whole concept of Set It Off was written as a utility piece. It was written to be for the DJs. Y'all want this party started? The party got to get started sometime. So that was the concept.
That's saying that?
Yeah, all of
let
that.
this party
Yeah,
start.
yeah, all of that. Yeah, you know, my whole thing was, I'm gonna throw the kitchen sink in here. If they didn't like the music, maybe they can use the acapellas, because there's going to be some phrases in there that they can use. So it was all designed to be a club tune, a utility tune.
Right.
And what in the lyric structure, what I was imagining was, and like I used the 808 on that, and so you know you had the big bottom, crisp
So
highs.
you kind of use that which you know what was trending in the space.
Yes.
Which is
Yes. You know, so it was, I was trying to get on the game board,
Right.
man. You know, I was using, you know, what I had learned up to that point.
Right.
And prior to
Smart.
that, I was working with bands. You know,
Right.
so this was the opportunity for me. I mean, affordable technology made it possible, because now you had 4-track cassette machines, affordable synthesizers, affordable drum machines. So now I didn't have to bother because see, what happened was I was wearing out my band members. You know, when you're trying to produce a record and everybody's used to just doing their thing and democratic, you know, we just fusion. Yeah, we musicians. Yeah, I'm gonna add this. Now I'm saying, no, you just gotta add this. Don't do that. Just this. I wanted it to be tight. And as I started to tighten up things with the band, they were starting to get tired of me. But the sound was getting tight. But it's like, look, we better make some money soon.
Right,
Because
right,
you know,
right.
we're getting tired of this. We ain't having fun anymore.
Right.
But we were getting tight. The thing was that affordable technology allowed me to go back to the drawing board without having to depend on all of these. I just went and,
exactly.
and
Just went
you
in the
know, I
lab.
started. Yeah, I went in the lab and just started laying it down. I borrowed my friend's Cosmo D from Nucleus. He had an 808. I only had a 606 drum machine, but I used his 808 to track it in the studio because it had independent outputs. But the thing was, everything that I put into that song, it was the original arrangement, was 10 minutes long. And the evolution of the arrangement went through these different segments that you could have gotten like 4 different songs out of it. I guess that's why, you know, folks ended up sampling it and using bits of it as they felt comfortable. But I made it to be a tune to remix. I stacked it with tracks so that, you know, you can take and create alternate designs from the elements that I put on all of those 24 tracks. I was like, I'm gonna put it all in here so that when I go back to it later, everything's already there. I don't have to be adding this or that.
You know what's crazy? The complexities that you speak of in the song, when you speak about them, I get it. But it's a very simple song. Lyrically, it's a very simple song.
And that's the idea. I want people to sing along.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Set it off, I suggest. But see, the lyrics, in the original release, Walter Gibbons mix of the song that became the popular. Now, look, Set It Off could have been a song that was overlooked. And I have to give Tony Smith, the late Tony Smith, and he came out of retirement to mix Set It Off. And I believe it's mainly because of the references to the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day, live us this day. Now, he didn't use, the way I wrote the song, it was one full set of lyrics, but I staggered the lyrics to be verse 1 and verse 2. Right. So instead of from spark to flame, our love will grow into a fire, it was from spark to flame, a little thinking, desires burning. Live us this day. You want to party?
Right, it was stretched
the
out.
Party starting with
right.
you. Right, so that was the design, but my idea was to put lyrics in that would engage the dancers lyrically while they're, you know, just embracing in the dance. So it was subliminal. I suggest y'all, you know, all of these things. So it was conscious, but it was conscientiously written.
Like genius.
Right, that's
Yeah,
funny. Like, Kyle, when he said it, I was like, oh, I get it.
You know,
Oh,
yeah,
I get
it was conscientious suggestion. But, you know, and it leads to the chorus. You know, set it off, I suggest y'all, you know, live us this day, give us this day, to show our gratitude, to change our attitudes. Come on with many, with all that we feel, the time is ideal to set it off. So
when you say that,
love
I realize now that it did have this gospel
Spiritual.
kind of thing to it.
yes,
That, I mean, I've heard the song hundreds of thousands of times, but when you explain it, I get it. It
Right.
is
Right.
gospel.
Like
So
it's
even though
gonna
you might-
bump so differently in the crowd now.
Right. When we rock this, it's gonna rock so differently.
yes.
So you make the song, they want to overlook the song. How do they catch on? Like, what is the piece that catches them on? It's the streets?
Oh yeah, because see, once the underground started embracing,
Because that hits in the streets, in the hood, that's
let
hit.
me tell you, the first time I knew that it was starting to take off, Shannon and I were in the village. We were on St. Mark's Place, and we were in the village in the evening, and this kid, she heard it. She's always hearing it. Yo, that sounded like Setup. Kid was walking by with this boom box. That sounded like Setup. What? You know, yeah. We went and followed the kid, you know.
Hell yeah.
What up?
Where'd you get that from?
Right.
Oh yeah, my man Tony Smith. What? He put it on tape. He made this tape for me.
Also, he knew Tony Smith.
Yeah, and he was making it on tape, so it was like but you know, they were embracing it, you know, the kids in the street, and you know, the clubs like of course the Loft, and again, you know, the garage.
Right, that was built for the garage.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily Larry that was playing it there. It was like
Okay.
Tony or somebody else that was bringing it in, you know, to the spot, and the folks heard it. And see, now here's another thing, like a lot of, you know, the R&B cats or some of the cats I knew as DJs. Now I've been in. I was on tour actually with Shannon. Let the Music Play in '84. I was a guitar player in the band, and when
You play guitar on it?
I didn't play guitar in the recording.
Oh.
I was in her first band that went out to represent her album at that point. It was the beginning of '84. Set It Off wasn't released till May of '84, so we went on tour in January. We were opening up for all the big bands, P-Funk, Cool and the Gang. I mean, Let the Music Play was
big.
transitional
Yeah.
at that time,
Yeah,
big song. So I mean, once I got like my demo record, I have to admit that I didn't agree with the first mix. That was a little shame.
Set It Off.
Yeah. That was you know, there was some things in it that anomalies that as a DJ I felt was holding it back from really just taking off. But because Tony Smith was a good friend of Walter Gibbons and wanted him to come back out, he championed it at the Funhouse. And the Funhouse was one of the first joints, besides, you know, the underground clubs. Funhouse was one of the joints where it was really played on a regular. And the kids there embraced the song. It became, and Jelly Bean was the main DJ there. Well, Tony Smith was spinning like, because Jelly Bean was doing productions too.
Right.
So, but Jelly Bean putting it on his top 10 list, all of these things helped to give it a life, because at that point it was still underground. It came out in May. It didn't hit radio until like November or
Of
December of '84. So it took all summer to get to that point, but it was percolating in the streets all that summer. And I was even starting to do some dates in the street.
You started to get called for booking.
Well, I started doing some dates with some underground promoters, and we're gonna break this. And you know, the calls didn't start coming in yet until radio picked it up, and then the booking agencies became aware of me. But let me tell you, when the record came out, the label, the independent label, put out an imposter group in using my name.
Get the hell out.
Oh yeah. And
They trying to
I
find
read about that.
Yes,
I read about that
yes.
So wait a
briefly
minute.
online.
Wait a minute.
There's so much
The
going
song is hitting, And they
It was
bring
starting
out
to hit-
an imposter group.
Yeah, because they wanted me to lip sync. And I didn't want to lip sync. I'm saying, well, give me a TV track. Give me a track so I could sing. They said,
Right.
well, we ran out of money, so we can't afford to go back in the studio. I said, well, I'll pay for it. You know, I'm working. I'll pay for it. Let me go back in the studio, do a TV track mix. Nah, don't worry about it. Nah, if you don't want to do the lip sync thing, then you don't have to. Just concentrate on what you're going to do for the album. I'm saying, well, let's talk about some business, because I went broke doing this. I didn't get paid to do the track. It was like they were an independent label without money, and I paid my people to come and do it. They paid for the studio time and all that. I picked the studio. We did it in Platinum Factory in Billie Holiday Theater. I want to keep it in the hood.
Wait, hold on. You did it at
Wow.
Restoration Plaza.
He works
Yeah.
at Restoration.
Oh, do you? Oh, yeah. Well, that was. I
So you
brought it home.
know. So you know.
Oh.
I brought it home. I was like,
You did it in the basement of Restoration.
Yes.
That's the studio you've been
That's the
talking
studio
about?
I be talking about.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like a community project. We're going to bring this home. We're going to take it here. And that's where I laid the
my
tracks
God.
in Restoration
That's
Plaza.
God is
Crazy.
crazy. This is crazy.
Yes. So again, it was a labor of love. I'm giving
Right.
them something. We're trying to do a trade-off, but now you want to.
So they bring out an imposter band. Who was the imposter band?
Okay.
I'll go see them right now for you.
Well,
we gonna get them right now.
well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, tell
let
me.
me see. And I have to. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
What happened?
He's about to tell us the
Well,
name
well,
of the
look.
imposter band.
Yeah. Well, it was some dances.
It was Millie
some
Vanilli.
dances.
It wasn't Millie Vanilli.
No, that was some dances.
And
Was it Millie and Vanilli?
It was some dan. They were gonna lip sync to to the song. But the guy that was singing the lead. He was androgynous, and that was the
thing back then. Mickey Free, Prince.
Somebody figure this out. Somebody do the Google.
But the dancers on it. One of them was Barbara Tucker. The house music queen. She was a dancer in that ensemble, and what happened was after they started again, I was heading to England with Shannon, and I heard that Strafe was going to be at the Funhouse. So I'm saying,
And you straight.
No, I'm not.
So I call up the label. I said, yo, I told you I wasn't going to do the show unless you give me a track. He said, oh, don't worry about it. We got somebody else.
We got somebody else to do it.
Now, how you going to get what? How you going to get somebody to perform in? No, well, did you read your contract?
Oh, record.
No.
But see,
I did read my contract.
Right.
They just misinterpreted a clause to suit them. They can use my likeness to promote the song, but then you can't go out there and use my name to represent me, misrepresent me. So that's where they were committing a fraud, and that's where I had them legally. So now it was war. Y'all going to do this, and now you're going to tell me that I'm supposed to just sit back and let y'all do this, and then I'm going to work on an album for you? No, it's not going to work, because now you're taking money out of my pocket, off the table, because you haven't sold any records yet. You haven't paid me for the tracks. I got to make a living, So what I did was I called up someone I met while on tour with Shannon. She worked a PR person, a person that worked for Ride On magazine. I told them what was happening. I'm in England. I can't be there. It's going to be imposter doing this show. So they came. They went down there with a writer and a photographer. They actually documented the show, and then they put out a magazine article about the imposter. The whole thing about imposter. Because that was happening a lot. That was happening with a lot of artists out. Several artists were being undermined. Now Shannon was going through that too with another artist. They were trying to undermine her. She sang the tracks, but they would use another artist to do the gigs. Right. But that's our livelihood. So for me,
you're Shannon?
No, that's Sharon.
No, Sharon. Okay, sorry. Yeah, somebody was asking. Right.
Yeah, well, Shannon.
So Shannon.
Yeah. Let the music play. Right. She was going through a similar situation. So. My thing was now, okay, I got to come home and I got to represent. So what was happening was, since folks, once the record was starting to take off, the only contact they had was the number on the record label, and that was to these folks at the at the label.
That was
so,
Shiesty.
Right. So at that point now, I have all my people listening out for the radio. If you hear Strafe, let me know if Strafe is performing somewhere.
Let me know, because I ain't
out in rap pages, like
me and the fellas, we're jumping in the band, with our gear.
So
We're gonna
right.
all the
snatch these
Farragut
gigs.
is
Right,
ready.
all the Farragut is listening.
Oh, forget
Where's Straight performing?
Yeah.
Where they at?
Yeah.
All right, bet, we out there.
Yeah, I heard you supposed to be here, man. And let me tell you, that's when I met. One of the dates was this date out in Hempstead. Didn't know where it was, but no, it was in Hempstead. I heard it on the radio. We're gonna be out there.
We're gonna be out there.
Yeah, okay. So
Pull up.
me and the fellas, we head out there. Radar, may he rest in peace. Bravo, who's still working with me, dancer. And a couple of, well, one other fella who was mainly security. He's the one that heard it. We went out, we're riding around Hempstead, just driving around, asking people in the street, yo, we're Strafe performing at tonight. We didn't know. Until we found somebody. Oh yeah, they're gonna be over at the school.
Right,
over here.
somebody gonna tell me where Strafe at.
Oh man, so we ended up going over to this school and ended up banging on the door, ringing the bell, ringing the bell. And Hank Shockley came to
Hank
the door.
Shockley came to the door.
Public Enemy. They were doing this before they doing Public Enemy. They were doing parties,
Right.
college stuff, and they had hired the band. They hired booked Strafe. So I said, yo, Strafe performing here tonight? Yeah, but that's later. Come back later. I said, yo, Strafe performing? Yeah, I'm here now. What do you mean you're here? I'm here now, Strafe. You said you got Strafe here, right? Now I didn't know it was Hank Shockley. He was just Hank Shockley, right? Gee, what do you mean? I'm Strafe. I'm here now. You know? Here's part of my contract. You want to know who Strafe is? Steve Standard, Strafe. There. I had to have at least the first page of my contract. And here's my ID. I'm Strafe. You want to know who Strafe is? I'm here. He was like, whoa. Well, I booked them, you know, we're gonna be sending a limousine for them, but if you, I already gave them half the money. If you wanna work for the other half, you know, and we just won't send a limousine for them. You wanna do the show? Of course, I'm here to do the show.
Right.
You know. So the rest is history. What happened after that, I started sending certified letters to every club in the city to let them know if they want to book Strafe, they got to book it through me. Otherwise, they'd be committing fraud. You know, and so that's how I had to. That's how I had to stake my claim. So what happened was, so the label was like, now all the big gigs are coming in and they're not getting them. I'm getting them, and it's like one of the clubs. Well, most of the clubs are owned by a family.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
We
talking old New York.
Yeah. So I'm sending these letters to all these clubs, and I get a call
And
from
it's
this
going to
cat,
one family.
from one of the family members, from his car phone, who is this Strafe? Steve Standard? Yeah, I'm Steve Standard. You the one sending all these certified letters to my clubs? Yeah, that's me. Where you at? I'm in Brooklyn. I'm coming over now. Came over to my house. We broke bread. He said, them cats mess with you, you know, because it's the family.
Right.
You know, you're gonna work
He's
in all
about
my
to
clubs.
lay something down.
It's like, oh no.
Like,
Okay, so that's how I shut them down from getting the dates. But as soon as that happened, they set it off the market.
Ooh.
It was off the market. Now it was bootlegged, and then what they did was they focused on the female version, the Harlequin Fours, which Barbara Tucker is the lead vocalist on that. And now because they wanted to control the group, they wanted to control the group money too, and as well as the record sales. But I knew that, and then they offered to manage me, but I knew that was a conflict of interest. You know, I had been studying, I've been in it for a while, I've been going to all the BMA seminars, Black Music Association.
Right, that's about to say, you were too intelligent for that.
Actually, I was a consultant to them. You know, I had gotten the rhythm section for them, and I was consulting them on certain
So
things.
how dare they try to play you like that?
Right. They had the nerve, and then they turned on me. You know, it's like they wanted to slam the phone. They slammed the phone down.
They hung up on you.
After I told them, look, I can't. What I told them was, look,
Wow.
I can't focus on an album until we sit down and talk about a budget.
Right.
Because we got to talk about a budget now, and you're talking about, you know, now you have some energy on the single. I'm not going to do the show. And if you can't give me a TV track, slam. Wow, and they slammed the phone down on me now. Like, whoa, you know, and then that's when I hear that they have the group performing as Strafe in you know, at the Fun House, and
Right.
it wasn't going to be me. So what I did was, I had one of my boys, Mike Muniz, who was a promoter, had him go down there with flyers, handing out flyers to let folks know that there's an imposter performing tonight. So he was down there all dressed up. It was snow outside. He said the bouncers came out, folks were throwing bottles at him. They chased him down because folks were, he was handing out the flyers.
Right.
Folks were coming to the door, you know.
And they wasn't paying right,
They
so
were
now
saying,
the
yo,
bouncers
yo,
is
what is this, an imposter's performance? I pull out all the tricks, you know, whatever's going to be. You know, I'm going to disrupt, you know,
Right.
upset the apple cart. So I had my folks down there, you
Yo,
know.
I did
and
not
my younger
know,
brother was out
bro.
there too. He was one of them out there, you know, giving out flyers.
Younger brother that put you on the NWA?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's wild. I know he's G. He's G'd up. I like him already.
Yeah.
I like him.
He was
He's cool,
definitely
right?
That's Craig.
outside.
Yeah, I like
Craig.
it. Right. I like Craig. Shout out to Craig.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Craig.
Yeah, definitely. But no, it wasn't Craig.
Marcel.
It was Marcel.
Okay, shout out to
Marcel.
Marcel.
Marcel, my youngest brother. He was the one that went out there. Yes. Yeah, those stories. Eventually, you know, I got back around to do Funhouse, and it was a whole nother relationship with them. But at that point, like I said, they wanted me to fail. The company wanted me to fail at that point. My whole concept of doing this deal with an independent label, I did an 18-month non-exclusive. They wanted me for 5 years exclusive, but how am I gonna sign a contract for 5 years when you're not putting any money on the table? I gotta make a living. You want me exclusively? I need to make a living. So,
Right.
you know, 18 months non-exclusive where I can still operate as an independent.
Right.
They didn't want to do that, and so the deal wasn't going to get done. So 2 week standoff. They said, "Okay, we'll do it." It was a struggle. I mean, it was a hustle each way. I had to
Right.
stand my ground based on things that I knew that were logical and proper, you know, for the progression.
Right.
But when they took it off the market, it became a collector's item instantly because now the DJs wanted it and they couldn't get it, and it was like
They didn't understand the concept of marketing. Once the scarcity, now people really want it.
right. Well, see,
Because
they
people
didn't.
had a taste of it.
They
so now
thought it
really
was going
want
to die.
Right.
They
No,
thought
it's
it was
not
because it
gonna
was
die.
still
too good.
still
It's too
new.
good to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, well, they didn't believe they figured that we're gonna do a better rendition of it, so they did a
Never.
remake of it with the female artists, and they were promoting that, and then they were selling my version. They were bootlegging it to, you know, so they wouldn't have to pay me proper
Right. They were still
royalties
trying to
on
get
it.
money from it.
They were still trying to
Right.
get money, so they would put it out in small doses to certain record shops. Once I got signed to A&M Records, because see, that was my goal, was to have something independent so I can call up a major and say, well, this is what I've done, because I've been trying to get on the game board. When I called up the A&R at A&M,
Right.
just so happened that the assistant to Nancy Jeffries, Mike Taub, he was the one that answered the phone. And I told him who I was, and I was, I wanted to have a sit down. He was freaked out. He thought, because it was serendipitous in that he became a fan of Set It Off because he frequented.
He was
His
in the
boys
clubs.
was at the Fun House.
Right. He was in the
So when
club.
I called him up on A&R for an A&R meeting, he thought I was one of his boys joking with him because he fell in love with the record. So again, one thing led to the next. We met, and A&M became interested. They started checking out my shows, and I eventually signed with A&M Records.
Wow.
And they wanted to purchase the master to set it
To
off
set it off.
from. But they
They
wouldn't give it up.
Of course, see, because they
They
full of
wanted
shit.
me
I'm
to-
mad at them right now.
No, you
Like,
should.
really,
No.
like-
You know why? Because see, I own the masters now
You-
and the publishing. I got it back. But if they had sold it to
Yeah.
A&M, I would have had a hard
You
time
would
getting
have
it
had a
back.
hard time getting it.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
Good,
see,
I got you.
you know.
Right.
So I mean, it was divine intervention. That's
Mhm.
where I see it.
Mhm.
All of the stuff comes right back around. and
So you spoke about the TV track that you needed to perform. What's the difference?
the difference is it's without my lead vocals
Right.
on the track.
Right, so
the
it's basically
accompanying-
just like the instrumental.
instrumental with the
With ad-libs.
support with
Right.
have the harmonies,
Gotcha.
all the other embellishments that support the lead vocal would be there, so I can still perform and sing live.
So Kai,
Almost
right
like the
now,
karaoke
so right
tune
now,
with
so
Yeah,
like
exactly.
when we did
Exactly.
the 5x5, all
I'm
of the
singing that at
artists,
karaoke.
all of the artists would submit TV tracks,
Right.
right? So it's not you're gonna rhyme, but all of the ad libs and the
Yeah.
hook is embedded in the track. Right.
Right, so all of those years, now they never gave me a TV track, and I never could perform to the record because the record, the way it was edited, I wasn't comfortable with the arrangement, and that was, again, that was a new thing. I mean, you know, the foundation of songs being released during the club period, the 70s, you have the song version that the radio plays, and then you have the remixes that extends it for the clubs. This was remixed by a club DJ where he edited it and he rearranged it in his, you know, in a way that he was comfortable with releasing, but I wasn't comfortable with performing. Now, my original arrangement was the arrangement that was written to be performed. The label felt that if I had got my hands on the mix, that it would confuse the audiences, and if the audience wasn't hearing what they were hearing on the record, that they wouldn't buy the record, they would lose interest in the song, and he was wrong. I mean, look,
Right,
I'm a
all of
musician.
that, right.
Anytime you go hear a live band, the live band sounds live. It doesn't sound like the record.
Right.
We're doing the record arrangement, what they know of the record, but if you know Set It Off and you know how the DJs were mixing it, every DJ mixed it differently. So the audiences were always hearing different renditions because it was arranged to be integrated into the DJ's set. So however they played it, some of them played the whole thing, not all of them did. They played it with the segments and how they integrated it into the rest of the music that they played around it. So when I performed it, I was performing the original arrangement, and the original arrangement had musical embellishments that weren't in the record. So DJs were starting to chase me around the clubs
get the
to try
live,
to bootleg.
right, to get the live
Yeah, they were
version.
trying to get that version, and
Right.
it was, so there's a sign.
You caused a whole problem in the
Oh,
streets.
man.
You was a whole problem in the streets.
Man, but I mean, again, look, I come from being a musician in bands. Now it was like I'm a performance artist because now I'm performing with tracks. But how do I resonate and how do I project? You know, now, you know, I like to dance, but I'm not trying to do no temptation steps, nor am I trying to break dance and do cartwheels and all of that stuff.
Right.
So, but I'm a freestyler, I would say. So for me, it's more about the personality and being able to represent the spirit of what the song evokes. Y'all want this party started, right?
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes, yes.
This party started quickly, right? So my thing is, how crazy, I'm gonna be an example for how far we have to take this,
Right.
and that's the fun, and that's how the energy that allows me to be in the moment, man, to take off and to get folks loose, because it's about getting them comfortable with each other,
Right.
getting the room started, getting them connected. You know, let's get it going, yo.
This was a cerebral strategy in music, and that's amazing. We ain't got much time, right? But it's so much I want to get into with this. But this is what I want to ask. The first thing I want to ask you is, how far did this song take you? Like, what was the furthest you were at when this song played, and like people that don't even speak English was singing the song? Like, did you ever have an experience like that?
Oh yeah, I had experiences with some of the underground clubs working for, like some of the dates I did with Vito Bruno up in the Bronx, where there was like big murals of Set It Off, and these were illegal clubs because he was doing outlaw parties back there. You know,
Right.
you know, as soon as I finish performing, the fire department's coming in, you know,
Close
to
it
shut the
off.
place down, you know, and I'm performing on the edge of a makeshift stage that's got a elevator shaft behind me that I could fall
20 feet.
I'm dancing on the edge and then back to the front of the stage, and then one of the shows I got attacked by these young ladies, and then one is on my back and the other one's on front of me trying to kiss me and stuff. Sharon didn't see that. She bought the
Sharon was, where was you at, Sharon?
she was trying to get the money.
Right, oh yeah, she was making sure the
making
business
sure we
was
got paid.
handled.
Sharon trying to get that bread, right?
Yeah,
She like,
she was
yo,
making sure we
make
got
sure that
paid.
back end is
Oh,
there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right. She was always on. She
Right.
always had my back there, and you know,
Right.
and it was like Red Alert. DJ Red Alert was DJing that night. But we were. You know, we were barnstorming. We were doing dates, whatever dates we can get in, and it was an underground tune. So it was
Right.
like, and look, I'm telling you, I just did the Roseland reunion Sunday, the audience, the folks, it's Set It Off as a family affair now, man. It's a family
like,
because everybody's relationship, what it means to them and their crew and their whatever they were doing at the time, you know, they know the song, but my face is not that familiar.
Right.
So to be able to connect with me, it's
It's like
mom
you and
was,
him.
I was a kid. It's my mother's favorite
Yeah,
song, but
it's your
we
him.
were, and it's it's love, man.
Like
It's
I
a beautiful
told you,
thing, man. It
this
really
song is etched in the fabric of blackness. When you got
Yes.
AKAs and deltas
Oh, no doubt.
strolling to this nationwide, Set It Off it's a new Negro spiritual.
I'll take all of that.
It's a Negro spiritual, man. Set It Off is that big. And now to hear about all of the turmoil, bro, this was your purpose, right? Because you had to, not only did you create the track, right? But now you had to fight for its very existence.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to play you.
Yes.
And have a bunch of
Milli Vanilli.
right, just come out and do this song because they believed in the song, but they wanted to have control over it.
Well, see, and like I said, they hated the song when they first heard it.
And that's crazy. They hated it, but then they go
didn't
Milli Vanilli
understand
it.
it. They didn't understand
Because
it.
once they got their first pressings, and they took it to like the Loft. David Mancuso was one of the one of the cats that would play underground records, and once they heard it on the sound system and the fact in the room, and they started to see that folks were taking to it. Now they were emboldened. They felt empowered, and they felt like they didn't need me.
They felt like they didn't need you.
Right.
They felt like you were disposable. Did you have Sharon talk to them?
No, I didn't.
Sharon should have talked to them. This is ridiculous. All right, here's the question.
He had what was his name? Marcel.
Marcel
handled it.
Shout out to Marcel. Farrag.
What's that?
What is that? That's different.
Yeah.
So look, now, 2023, we're sitting here. This is the first time I've ever, like many in the Black experience, putting a face to the product. What is it like now with regards to you performing this song, touring this song? Like, what does this song mean with regards to your day-to-day?
Well, the way I see it now, I see it as a skeleton key. I see it as an opportunity to open up opportunities to bring the rest of the campaign forward. I've been creating music, like I said, for suggestion and for community, but to be utility to elevating our sense of collaboration, but all of those traditional things that we spoke about when, music that the family can share, music that the family can get inspired with together, the mom, pop, and the kids could be dancing to it. And the community can be inspired to do the other things that we need to be doing as a community. Specifically politically, the issues, the problems that need to be solved, and it's a conscious effort. That I think can be spurred by the music that the artists, I really believe that this is a moment where the artists have to take control of the narrative that we're speaking to each other and that we're speaking into the moment now. Music is always, and you see how hip hop has influenced and how our style influences global culture. So when do we take control over that experience, take responsibility for controlling what it is we want to see return, and how do we take care of each other, through the conscious effort of the things we communicate to each other, and those are the pieces that I've been prioritizing in my catalog that I'm preparing to release.
That's awesome, brother.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear what you have coming up next, because I believe in your ability to effectuate positivity in music and effectuate family and culture, right, in the music. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Just sitting here listening to you, you come out of a space where your environment was all about that, right, and your trajectory proves that out. Like you would not have been able to create Set It Off if you and your family wasn't sitting around singing the Roundabout songs.
Right.
That's big.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, it is,
Right.
it is, and I'm humbled by the experience, and I told the ladies when I did speak, I did a live for the AKAs, we did a live a Zoom thing and a performance for them, but I don't want to mess this up, you know. The AKAs, you know, I had 4 sisters, so you know, I'm sensitive to the sisters.
Shout out to the black women.
You know,
Shout out to the African
and,
Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
and no doubt, you know,
Absolutely.
it's about respect.
That's
I
right.
definitely-
Clap it up for 'em.
You know, I definitely don't want to compromise whatever it is that
No.
they've embraced about the song. You know,
It's
I have
not gonna
a
stop.
sense of responsibility.
Yeah, it's not
But I
gonna
also
stop.
feel that knowing their story and knowing that what they're about, you know, that it's a way to perpetuate the positive things that I'm trying to do as well, so I can be an asset.
Right.
And that's what the music that I'm creating and making available. I want to raise funds for underserved programs. I want to be about, you know,
We're gonna
supporting
talk
our
offline.
national programs and being about channeling funds from some of the songs that I've written are specifically to raise funds and to be utilized for raising funds for programs that are about taking care of the community, because that's what it's, you know, that's where I come from.
You and I are going to talk offline because I'm going to tell you some things about restoration and about Platinum Factory and where it's headed, and I need you to be a part of that. Last question, and I'm going to ask everybody in the room. Sharon, I'm going to start with you. Here's the question. Everybody's going to answer it, then you're going to answer it, all right?
Mm.
Is Set It Off hip-hop?
Yes,
Why?
because I guess I think it's because of the different sounds and elements that he put into the song, and because there were a lot of artists, hip hop artists, who sample Set It Off and used it in
Hell
all of
yeah.
their songs.
Dozens. I
That was
looked it
one of
up.
the #1 sample songs of all time.
I know. I looked it up. Jason, is Set It Off hip-hop?
Absolutely.
Why?
Everything is Sharon. Like,
That's my
I mean,
point.
That's a good black man. He said everything Sharon said. I believe.
you know, but seriously though, like when you hear it, like you hear it in other songs, you hear it in hip hop. Part of the culture is taking the samples and making something new, and having the DJs taking taking the beats and you know, looping that mix and getting everybody on the dance floor. So yeah, absolutely.
Kai?
Absolutely, he's
Why?
rhyming over a track.
He's rhyming over a track. Lauren?
That's true.
Set It Off is the foundation of hip hop, but what hip hop is today, that is not Set It Off.
Okay,
So that's what I was going to say. So
I believe that.
you're a very unique person because you were born in the root
Right.
Right,
of the culture.
right,
Jazz
yes.
is the root. You said something that was very important. You said hip hop is the result. Right? And so I believe Set It Off is hip hop, but not because it's a hip hop song, but because it's indicative of that which created the result. That's why it's hip hop. It's hip hop because it precedes hip hop, but it's done in a manner that hip hop, everything hip hop comes. Because look, what's the name of the? It's getting kind of hectic. What was that? Who's that? It's getting kind of
Snap.
hectic. Who's that?
Snap.
Snap. That set it off.
Right.
Like that set it off, right? So what you created in the moment in '84, that's a time when hip hop was burgeoning. One could call Set It Off hip hop, but the truth is that it transcends hip hop
Well,
It's
because
hip-hop.
it's global.
Right,
I'm
it
saying it's
transcends it,
world
though.
groove, definitely.
because it's really jazz, low key.
Well, it's all of those elements,
It's
definitely.
house,
But
it's house, like all of that.
Right.
it's the syncopation.
Right.
Now, in '84, now you think about house is that was the evolution of disco dying and the club DJs carrying it forward from a lo-fi perspective. But it's still 4/4 on the floor, 4 on the floor. That was the disco thing. But Set It Off, the syncopation of the rhythm, tribal. So that was the funk, you know, that I in the production. So that hip hop is definitely the funk.
Right.
And that hip hop was, like I said, it was the anti-disco. And when hip hop, you know, started making its impact, was the same time that punk was making its impact because it was anti-establishment. So they were both anti-establishment at the same time.
CBGBs, that's just
Yeah, it
popping
was
big,
going
right?
against what
Right.
whatever mainstream was saying was supposed to be doing. You know, punk was, we don't have to learn how to play our instruments. We're just gonna slam them. And hip hop was pretty much the same thing, you know, in terms of even with the low fidelity
Right.
and the lack of professional mannerisms on the
Right. I still hold
and you know, and the distortion.
Tell me I still hold
And the
back
distortion, we don't care. It was rebellion, and it was like we just gonna feel this, and we gonna feel each other, and this is how we gonna do it.
Right.
You know, so it was breaking free from what was being sort of dictated in a sense. You know, to our to the country and to the. And see, right now, you know, we're at I'd say that it's been co-opted because we've lost community radio. You know, it's become a corporate umbrella. Clear Channel, whoever, you know, have bought out. Yeah, I mean, it's a machine now.
Right.
It's not community
Everything is
based, focused or controlled. You know, it's only community radio, and I guess vehicles like this, independent, you know, have the opportunity to perpetuate truth,
truth
from its rawness and from the community as it stands. So yeah, one of my releases, one of the newer releases is called "Truth Will Find You," and again, I've already, you know, you're saying you believe that it can work. I try these things. I've been. For me, the truth is in the street, and if I can perform it, and audiences can feel it, I don't want to say sell it, but yeah, I got to sell it. Can I invite y'all into this moment and we can speak? Because that's the thing that allows me to be comfortable is, am I honest about being present and being in the moment? And are y'all feeling comfortable with me at this moment that we're all here in this moment, you know? So that's how I like to operate and how I like to communicate in the songs that I create. So
God bless you, bro.
I'm looking forward
Yes.
to, you
God
know,
bless you.
the
And
things
look,
that
while,
we can
while
do.
we were sitting here, I did the math on your age. I ain't gonna tell them your age.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
God
okay.
bless you. Yeah, Sharon, chill out, Sharon.
Yeah, I
chill
know.
out.
Can we get one more?
I'm 39 and
Yeah, yeah, hold on, wait. Now I want you to do one more. Y'all want this party
Yes.
started?
and I
Because you
think
killed it
girls-
with that.
Y'all want this party started, right? Y'all want this party started quickly, right?
I love it.
Y'all want this party, huh?
Jake came with that. So what's up? What they talking about on the
Not too much, not too
Everything,
much.
but yeah, it's about to cut off. So.
It's about to cut off. We low on battery.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So
Shout
look,
out to Strafe. Like there was a lot. We did miss one question, but it's way up top.
Yeah, I'm a couple of your friends were on here. So
Yeah.
oh, you was on it too.
yeah,
Sharon, Sharon be doing her thing. Shout out to Sharon.
Sharon is on.
She's
it.
on her thing. So look, I just want to say this. At Hip Hop Closet, we are very, very much in tune with our history.
And we didn't get that toasted.
We're gonna do the toast now.
Yeah, the toast.
Toast to Hip Hop Closet.
I
Toast to the
thought
street.
okay.
They
figured it out.
Come on, we
out.
got.
It's still typing.
It's still here. It's still
Okay,
taking.
okay.
Look, you want something? Here, come get some. Look, here, take it. So look, at Hip Hop Closet, we're very much in tune with our history. We come from this community. Kai's from Fort Greene. I'm from Clinton Hill. I come from a jazz background. Like my father played jazz. Like I grew up in that space. It was so amazing to hear you give us a history lesson on the journey from jazz to hip hop. I don't even know if that you knew that you did that. I definitely didn't think we were gonna have that, but we had it, and I'm so happy we got that on tape, because what you said and the words that you said and everything how you tied the thing together, man, was so eloquent. Thank you so much for coming and believing in us enough to come and share your story.
I'm trying to get better at this, so this was like another workout.
Nah, bro.
No, this
Yeah.
was serendipitous because
Yeah.
we had a last minute
We had
cancellation.
we actually had a cancellation.
And so the fact that you were able to come in on such short notice and
Yeah.
bless us with all of these gems, I really appreciate that. So
And
thank
if
you.
it's one thing I want the people who watch to get, is that this thing is bigger than just the music. The music is just a vehicle. It's just a way to express. it ain't the thing. It's how we use the thing that matters. And I think that if people knew more about how to use this thing, we wouldn't be in the predicament we are musically.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely more important than we acknowledge, and I think that's one of the problems. Well, that's something. It's like why our jazz musicians have to go overseas to be respected and
Shit,
received
our
and
old school
earned.
hip hop artists have to go
Yeah.
overseas to be
Received. Because
Absolutely.
we take it for granted.
Right.
Oh, my little brother can do that, and and it's like we don't take ownership.
Right, no, your
of-
little brother can't do this.
Right.
Okay.
So let's do
we're
the
gonna
cheers
do
and then
the
we
toast.
out because
Yeah.
we got like 1% left. You know what I'm saying?
What was
Cheers
the
to
toast?
set it. We cheers to set it off.